Happy Monday, boys and girls. On Friday, we finished Chapter 4 of my favorite novel, Where the Red Fern Grows by Mr. Wilson Rawls. And if you think Chapter 4 was exciting, oh man, you better hold on to your britches because Chapter 5 is so much more exciting. And on Friday, you took a Google Classroom test over chapters 1 through 4. I hope you did a good job. I'm going to check with all of your teachers later today. But before we get started, I have some questions that we need to think about. Before we begin chapter 5, here's some questions that I would like for us to reflect on from chapter 4. And number 1, it says, how do you think Billy's papa, which was his daddy, and mama will feel when they wake up and realize that Billy is gone? My girls probably would not have been able to sit down for a week when I woke up and when I finally got my hands on them. And number 2, do you think that Grandpa will share Billy's secret about ordering the puppies with Papa and Mama once he finds out that Billy has gone or has run away to go pick up his puppies? And number 3, when Billy does finally get home, hopefully with his new coon hound pups, do you think Billy is going to be in trouble with his parents? Yes. I think he's going to be in a lot of trouble. I might be wrong, but oh boy, this might not be pretty. And number 4, are you excited to see if the puppies will be at the train depot when Billy gets there? Oh, I cannot wait. But before we start reading chapter 5, we have some words to go over, like we always do. And our first word is muster. And muster is a verb, and a verb is an action word, and muster means to collect or gather. And in chapter 5, Billy needs to muster his courage or gather his courage. And one of my favorite sayings in the whole wide world is, if you have the courage to begin, you have the courage to succeed. And go ahead and let's think about it. Billy had the courage 2 years ago to raise the $50 that he thought he needed to purchase his pups from the kennel. And then once he raised his money in the middle of the night, he had the courage to walk 30 miles to the nearest town, to the train depot to pick up his puppy. So do you think he's going to have or do you think he's going to succeed in picking up his puppies and getting them home? We're going to find out. In the 1930s and 40s, we did not have in our homes running water. You didn't have a sink where you would go turn on the spigot or the faucet. You did not have toilets inside. The adults or even the young adults in the family would have to go to a well that looked like this. And in the well, you would lower down a bucket into the water and bring the bucket back up with the water for you to use, whether it was to drink or to use in your sink or your faucet, or to clean yourself, like take a bath. But now, if you live in the country and you don't have city water, you still have a well, but it probably does not look like this. So let's go over the definitions of these two words. A well is a noun, and it is a deep hole dug into the earth to provide a water supply. And to get the water up from this deep hole, you had to use a pulley. And a pulley is going to be talked about or discussed in chapter 5. And a pulley is a noun. And it is a device consisting of a wheel over which, see the rope? Which a rope or a chain is pulled in order to lift heavy objects. Well, in this case, the heavy object would be the full bucket of water. Okay, our next word is snicker, and it's not like the Snickers candy bar. It is a verb, and it is a scornful laugh, and this means that it is a mean or a nasty laugh to make fun of someone. And if you snicker to be mean, it is very rude, something we won't do in 4th grade, and it can hurt someone's feelings. And in chapter 5, the past tense of this word, this verb, snickered, is used. And you see these two girls right here, they're not being nice, and they're snickering at someone. Our next word is breeches, and you see here, it is an old-fashioned word for pants, and it is a noun. And I can remember my grandmother saying to me, "Girl, you are getting too big for your breeches." That meant I was not being very nice, and I was probably fixing to get in a lot of trouble. Probably not going to be able to sit down in my breeches for a little while. In chapter 4, the word bore was used as a verb, and it meant to make one's way through, and Billy bore his way through the woods. Well, in chapter 5, it has a whole new meaning, and it is also a verb, an action word, but it means to make a hole in something. And in chapter 5, a boy was hitting so hard that he bored in. So what he was doing, he was hitting so hard, it felt like he was hitting a hole through Billy. There's a hint there. Our next word is anvil, and it is a noun. And this is a heavy steel or iron block with a flat top, concave or curved sides, and typically had a pointed end. And these were used before modern machines that welders worked, and anvils were a primary tool for blacksmiths, and blacksmiths worked with metal and steel as they hammered and molded their tools on the tops of these anvils. And right here you see a blacksmith, and he's molding metal using the top of this anvil. Our next word is grit, and I'm not talking about grits. I'm not talking about dirt up under your feet like if you're walking barefoot in the house. This is a totally different kind of grit, and it is a noun, and it means having courage and strength and of character. And this is another one of my favorite sayings, and it says, "Grit is sticking with your future day in, day out, and not just for a week, not just for a month, but for years." So let's talk about Billy. Billy saved for 2 years to raise the $50, which ended up being $40, to order or pay for his pups. So let's talk about it. Billy had grit because he worked for 2 years to raise the $40 to purchase his new red coon dog puppies without any help from his parents or grandpa. Most children at the age of 12 would not have Billy's grit and determination to work so hard to achieve their goal. That was so true about Billy. Our next word is gnaw. You see this puppy? He's gnawing on a rawhide. It means to bite or nibble something over and over. And in chapter 5, the past tense of this verb will be used, which will be gnawed. Look at this little baby. And think about your Chromebook. And think about puppies. They are all very delicate, and this is an adjective, which is a describing word for a noun, and this puppy is delicate, and this is a delicate baby, and you must treat your Chromebook like it is delicate because each of these are easily broken or damaged, and they are fragile. Our next word is runt, and it is a noun. And this is an animal that is smaller than average, especially the smallest in a litter. Now, puppies are typically born in groups of 3, 4, maybe even 12 puppies in a litter or a group. And the runt is the smallest. So look at these two puppies and look at its brother or sister or its litter mate. It's much smaller. And then look at this big puppy, and then look at its brother or sister that is smaller, and it's the runt. And the same here. Here's a puppy, and its litter mate is so small, it is the runt. And sometimes the runts, many times, they do not survive. They pass away before they become full-grown dogs. And here's some important points in Chapter 5. In this chapter, we find out the main character's last name. We knew his name was Billy, but his last name is Coleman. And later on in the chapter, you're going to hear about a bottle of pop in this story. And a bottle of pop is in no way a Southern term. A bottle of pop or soda pop refers to soft drinks like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Sprite, Fanta, and Mountain Dew. There are many others, but a bottle of pop, think about Coca-Colas or Pepsis. Then later on, when Billy refers to reaching way back to Arkansas, now here's Oklahoma and here's Arkansas. He really cannot reach all the way to Arkansas, but it means that he reached a long way down within himself for determination. He was currently in Oklahoma, and Arkansas was far away. Now think about our food web. You know that a water moccasin, which is a snake that lives in water like in a creek or a river or a pond or a lake, they eat bullfrogs. So that's important. And then you're going to hear the term beady little eyes. This refers to having small eyes that are full of hesitation. So an animal that might be scared might be looking out of its little hole where it lives in its little burrow or in its cave and looking out to try to see what's going on, but they're really not going to walk outside. So I'm about to start reading, Chapter 5. That will be in my next video, and I hope you are as excited as I am. See you in a minute.